call, Ms. Chisholm. Oh, you're muted.
My apologies. Dr. Acuff,
Here.
Ms. Carlson,
Here.
Ms. McKeever,
Here.
Ms. Osborne,
Here.
Mrs. Puryear,
Here.
Mr. Wade.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Chisholm, can we take a vote, please?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I will move it, Jennifer.
I second.
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, can we go ahead and have a vote, Ms. Chisholm?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mrs. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Fantastic. Next up, moving right along, public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next is approval and review of the financial status. Do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, I
Oh,
think
sorry,
Madison had signed up for public comment.
Did not reach out to me, Mrs. Carter.
He's here, though. I see him.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any objections? with
Yeah,
letting
Leslie.
Mr.
I had sent something to Leslie later than the time of 10 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madison. I never got it. I apologize.
It's on me. Anyway, do I have permission or not?
Yes, I think we're all fine with you
Okay.
hearing your comments.
As a aged, maybe I should say, school board member from the 90s of 8 years on the board and 7.5 of those years on the CATEC board, I'm still, CATEC is very important to me, and CTE particularly. And I feel like I had hoped that there would be more progress made between the time I was on the board until now. And of course, as a country, we haven't done it. And as a community, we haven't done it nearly the way we should. And I happened to read an article in, I guess it was Thursday's Progress, about how awash in money the state of Virginia is. And there is some movement afoot on more emphasis, shall we say, on CTE. And I feel like it's incumbent upon us as a community, when we're so dedicated to education here, that we have be dedicated to education for all of our students. And I feel like our CTE kids are still not getting the equal opportunity or equal focus, perhaps. And I'd love to see you folks try to advocate with your colleagues on the 2 school boards and the community and around the state, if you have any influence with politicos or whomever, to let's get us off the dime on CTE. And it's not to denigrate what's been done when Linda and I were on the school boards, but it's or to denigrate what you're doing now. But it's too much of an opportunity, especially with things having changed as a result of COVID, for us to do a better job. And Stephanie and Linda went over and took a look at the Massanutten CATEC, our CTE center, and it's we pale by comparison from their description. And it's not something that, obviously they have a different population, but I'd love to see us take giant strides, and I'm hoping that the community can take giant strides. I know we're a wonderful, with both PVCC and UVA, we're a wonderful academic community, and that's a wonderful thing. And also with both school divisions. But let's try to do a better job with CTE. And I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Madison. Hearing no other public comment, the next item on the agenda is to receive and approve the financial status for February and March. Do we have a motion on that?
Ms. Carlson, I need to add something after that, after your approval of the financial status around finances.
I
you
will
wanna
move
go
the
ahead and do that?
approval.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer. I'll move the approval.
I'll second.
And then open it up for discussion. Do you want to give those comments now, Ms. Carter?
Sure. I have, as the director of CATEC, my spending limit is $25,000. I'd like the board's permission to purchase an alignment lift that we need for our automotive tech program. It's a great addition right now. You can see on this picture that it's called a scissor lift. Right now, that's not present on the one that we have. So students always have to get on the floor and slide under the car. This will allow them to lift the car up and align it properly. We have the money in our current budget, and I am asking the center board to allow me to spend the additional $403 to make this purchase for this upgrade in our auto tech lab.
I move we approve the purchase of the Hunter lift.
Well, let's pause for 1 second because we have the motion on the floor for approval of the financial status. And I'm
Okay.
realizing, Ms. Carter, that this is kind of a separate
Okay.
item. So since we already got the second on that, Ms. Chisholm, could we take a vote on approval of the February, March financial status?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
And may I say
Great.
something?
Mhm.
We updated the board book and actually April's financials are included as well. I wanted to make sure that they were part of the motion to be approved.
Thank you for that correction.
They are.
So then, Kate, you wanted to make a motion on the information that Ms. Carter presented?
Right, but I've forgotten what it's called.
The Hunter lift.
Okay,
Alignment lift, yeah.
okay. I move this board approve Stephanie Carter's purchase of the Hunter lift for the automotive lab, which exceeds her usual limit of $25,000 by about $1,400.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, do we have any discussion from anyone? Questions?
Just Stephanie, will this be in place then before the next school year?
It has to be in place by June 30th. So yes, it will be.
Okay.
It's an exciting addition. Thank you all so much for that.
Ms. Carter, I had a question just about how the RFP process works, or if you have to do that for items like that. And the only reason I'm asking is I know that in my other role, I work with the airport, and they're having a really tough time actually having items come in at cost or be available at all. And so you had a very specific number, so I'm assuming you've already got that lined up, or is that?
Yes, we do. In fact, I have an email drafted in my send box to send to him as soon as I get off this meeting. At this level, we just had to have 3 prices, and so we got the three quotes, and we choose the lowest quote. Or if there's some extenuating circumstance, it doesn't have to be the lowest one, but this one does happen to be the lowest one. And we've already arranged. Like I said, I'm just going to hit send, and our rep is ready to order it, and has. We anticipated being here at the beginning of June.
Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Ms. Chisholm, can we go ahead and have a vote?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
The next thing on the agenda, and feel free to correct me if I mess this up, I said it in the prior meeting, but I'm toggling between screens here, is approving the audit that was done by, what is it? Robertson Cox Morgan.
Actually, the fund balance transfer item is next.
Looking at an old agenda. So
Send you
Okay.
the link to the.
if you could send me an updated link, because what I have on mine has 2130 listed as an audit, and I don't want to make any more mistakes. But Stephanie, you said approval of a fund transfer being the next item.
Yes.
Do we have a motion on that?
Do you want to hear the details?
Yes, please.
So going into 2021-22, we're anticipating a fund balance of $730,218. I would like to respectfully request that the center board allow me to appropriate $200,000 to accomplish some important tasks at CATEC. $80,000 of the $200,000 has already been approved for self-funding in the 2021-22 budget. And I would also like to use $75,000 to sort of realign some positions and make some budget adjustments, since we have had a slight change in the amount of raised increases. And then our culinary arts classroom floor is in disrepair. Right now it has a piece of plywood, the tiles buckled, and it needs to be replaced. I'd like to use some of the fund balance to not only replace the floor, but to do an overall refresh with new paint and some new shelving, and just use the opportunity to do a kind of an overall facelift in that space if the center board allows. After I use the $200,000, we will be left with $530,218 in our fund balance, which should be adequate.
Thank you for that information. Do we have a motion on that?
I will move
Madam
it.
Chair, I move that we approve the request for transfer of funds from our fund balance as explained by Ms. Carter.
I second.
Second.
I think I heard Jennifer on that, or Kate. Do we have any discussion or questions? Hearing none. Ms. Chisholm, could we have a vote?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Perfect. You know, I only because I know Dr. Haas so well, can I call him out for this, although he just got off his video, but I don't know if he's moved the whole meeting. I'm like trying to check if it's like he took a screenshot. You're a very still man, Dr.
No, I'm here. I'm just really tired today. I've had a lot of meetings, so I'm just kind of just chilling, enjoying a CATEC meeting.
I need to absorb your energy. I feel like I'm moving all around and you're.
He's
Yeah,
trying to straddle both sides of the fence. He had his Virginia Tech blanket. I think he thought, uh-oh. So now he's thrown over the Cavalier blanket. So he's got half and half. Matt, I presume you went to one of those institutions.
I went to Virginia Tech, and my son goes to UVA. And
Okay,
I was
you're
receiving,
giving equal time to the wallet.
I was receiving a lot of shade in my texts from several CATEC board members about the Virginia Tech blanket. So then I decided I would have to do something.
There you go.
Don't
Okay,
worry,
so
Matt, I got you.
I think at this point we are moving on to the agenda item of approving the audit done by Robinson, Farmer, and Cox. Do we have a motion on that?
I move that we accept the audit as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Any information you need to provide us, Ms. Carter?
It was a very clean audit. There were no adjustments, and there were no recommendations for improvement. It was a very clean, good audit.
This is just a question out of curiosity. Do we have to do a 5-year cycle? Is it a 5-year cycle like we do, or no?
For audits?
Yeah, using a different company. I was just curious if CATEC had different guidelines on
I think every 5 years it has to go out in an RFP. I think that Robinson, Farmer, and Cox, they are the typical one that even when they do the RFPs, they're almost always chosen as kind of a sole source for their extensive knowledge in the educational field. One of the best practices, and I think Dr. Acuff brought this up at our meeting last year, One of the best practices that they share with me is that they alternate and revolve teams. So you don't have the same team of people. You do have a different set of eyes, even if they're from the same firm.
Okay, thank you. That was it because their name always comes up, so that's good to know. The next item on the agenda is going to be a presentation about a partnership potential or partnership proposal with PVCC. And I believe we have a presentation that's going to follow. Is it Dr. Friedman or Mr. Friedman is going to be presenting, or is it going to be you, Ms. Carter?
I'm going to present, and Dr. Friedman is here for questions after I give you guys a little bit of information.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. So following I think our last meeting, Dr. Friedman reached out about and kind of made us aware of some funding that was recently signed into legislation called G3. It stands for Get Skilled, Get a Job, and Give Back. And we keep hearing about the need for skilled workers throughout the nation. It's a need, and we know it's been coming, and we've been saying it for years in the CTE field. And now I think as a whole, our country is feeling it. And as a result, Virginia is addressing it through this G3 legislation. It was approved on March 29th, and it is considered a special non-reverting fund to train skilled workers in high demand fields. And it's a very long list of high demand fields. And CATEC offers quite a few to our adult education program, through our adult education program. This program is pretty phenomenal. It will provide financial assistance to low and middle income Virginia students who report a household income that is not more than 400% of the federal poverty guidelines. And a more simplified way to understand that is that if you qualify as a Virginia student, your income would be about $100,000 for a family of 4. So it's really not restrictive in the amount of income. It's a pretty high income level. The students would have to be enrolled or accepted for enrollment at an institution of higher education. So this funding really is restricted to community colleges or colleges and universities. They also have to have completed and submitted applications for any other federal or state financial aid program. And I'm not an expert on this legislation at all. So if Dr. Friedman might have more information that he'd like to share, but these are kind of the high points. As I said, they have to be enrolled. That has to be an associate degree granting public institution, and the program covers tuition, fees, and textbook cost. So it's really an opportunity for a very large portion of our community to have access to trade education for free. And so right now at CATEC, although I think there are probably more opportunities to bring in even more programming, we offer these classes would be considered G3 eligible. Our auto technology class, our certified nurse aide, emergency medical technician, registered medication aide, pharmacy technician, electricity, HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, and a recent development is that it will also include the related technical instruction for apprenticeships. I am recommending to the Center Board that we consider beginning program in spring 2022, depending on the conversation and where things go, maybe even fall 2021. We would offer high demand courses listed on the previous slides and be open to others as we install new welding stations and make some improvements in our equipment here. I'd like for us to consider the possibility of other courses, I just mentioned that, and then approval from the Center Board to begin discussions about a potential partnership. And I'd like to ask Ms. Carlson to offer a motion to begin this discussion in closed session this evening. And that's kind of it. Like, this is a very high level presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, and I know Dr. Friedman is on to also be able to answer questions.
So since the only motion is going to be to discuss it later, let's, in closed session, if there's any questions about the presentation right now or for Dr. Friedman, let's start with that.
Yes, do we know how long the G3 funding will be available? Is that forever or for a couple of years, or do we have any idea?
If you don't mind, Stephanie, I'll answer. It is a permanent part of the state budget. What that means is I'd expect it to go on forever. Of course, the General Assembly can always take anything back, but it is funded. It's also law, so that really ensures that it will be funded in the future. If I might just say a few words, Director Carter did an excellent job in the presentation, so there's not a whole lot I can add to it, but I just want to make sure you're all clear. You offer excellent programs right now to the adults at night. However, G3 creates an incredible opportunity. I think we can do something really great for the people of our community. We can make those adult education programs free for the people of our community. Tuition fees, books, all covered by the Commonwealth through G3. However, that can only be accomplished if those courses and programs are offered by Pvcc. If they're offered by CATEC, G3 does not apply. So when I figured all that out a few weeks ago, I emailed Director Carter and I just said, hey, I think we can do something great for our community and really help people get the education they want, make it totally affordable, but it would take a partnership between us. And the partnership would mean that Pvcc would become the operator of those programs that are G3 eligible, but we don't have a facility. So we would obviously continue to do it at CATEC using your equipment. We don't have equipment for most of those programs. And my proposal was, let's sit down and work out a financial arrangement, like a revenue sharing, such that CATEC does not lose any of the money it's making off of the adult program. I don't know what percentage of the revenue will do that. We would need to get our finance people to sit down and examine all of that. And I don't know how long that would take. I don't even know if it's feasible, to tell you the truth. I don't know if the revenue is sufficient so that CATEC is held harmless or does better than it's been doing financially. And at the same time, Pvcc meets its goals in that we can't lose money on this program. We've got to at least break even. So I don't even know if that's possible, but the only way we'll find out is if you all authorize us going forward to start the process, work towards an MOU. The MOU would have to be approved by you. It would have to be approved by me. So nothing's going to happen unless we're all happy with the partnership and the arrangement. And again, to me, we can do something really good for our community. Madison talked earlier about his belief in CTE. I certainly share that. And this is a chance to really do something for people who want to get into those programs, but can't afford it. So if we can work out an MOU that everybody's happy with, we would really serve the community well. And that's the idea.
Thank you for those comments, Dr. Friedman. Ms. Perrier, is your hand up for
It
question?
is, Ms. Carlson. Ms. Carter, I have a question regarding how this partnership would affect the agreement that we have with the University of Virginia regarding their apprenticeship program.
And Ms. Carter, before you answer that, just to set the tone on the legality of it, we will have the opportunity after this to enter into a closed session where we could discuss things that might affect our bargaining position or negotiation. So questions of that nature can be talked about in the closed session, just as a reminder.
Yeah, just if I could comment, and Leah, this won't directly answer your question, but We could do this with the apprenticeship program in or with the apprenticeship program out. You have options there. The advantage, again, with the apprenticeship program in is that, if I understand this right, your students in apprenticeship do pay some tuition, fees, books for the related instruction. That could be covered by G3. As long as the student got an industry certification each year along the way to the apprenticeship, G3 would cover the related instruction. When Director Carter and I talked about it, it would still be the CATEC apprenticeship program. It would be marketed that way, branded that way. We would not run the apprenticeship program. All we would do is the related technical instruction, because that makes it free to the students. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, Leah, but that would be how I would envision it.
Ms. Carter, did you have a follow-up? Because I feel like I unfairly interrupted Ms. Puryear's question.
No, you're okay. I agree. I would prefer not to discuss individual accounts and that sort of thing here. Our partnership with UVA facilities is really important to us, and overall apprenticeships are really important to our students that we serve at CATEC and that come through, especially young students coming through all of the base high schools that we serve. And so I would want to make sure it's really important to me. And as Dr. Friedman said when we spoke, I think I was very, very clear and upfront that apprenticeships have to stay in, they have to remain and be part of our students' pipelines. I will say that I think I've sort of shifted my thinking about all of this discussion about strengthening the pipeline into the workforce. And I think our responsibility really is to strengthen our students' individual pipelines. And I do think that whether it's apprenticeship or whether it's one of these programs through G3, that we have a responsibility to make sure that we are doing that for individual students that enter the halls of CATEC, and making sure that we are doing everything we can to make the most affordable route to a living wage and successful, fulfilling career possible. So apprenticeships are a big part of that. UVA Facilities is a great partner with lots of potential, and I don't really see that individual partnership shifting totally. It was a long answer, Ms. Paulson. You probably wish you hadn't circled back.
How many of our students, Ms. Tomlin, is she still on? Yeah. How many of our students right now that are paying would qualify? Do you know, like what percentage would now be getting the same education for free if we move to the G3 funding?
With apprenticeships, most of our students are sponsored by employers, and their employers are actually paying for their tuition and textbooks. We do probably have maybe 15 or 20 students that are self-pay, that aren't actually employed right now, that are trying to get some instruction under them to find an apprenticeship sponsor or find a career in the industry. A relatively small amount of students are self-pay.
But presumably there's some that are not applying because they can't afford it. Because I know there's applications for the foundation for scholarships that aren't.
Yes. And we do have the foundation does award several scholarships per year to students that are directly taking apprenticeship classes.
So Ms. Carter, your comments about perhaps starting this in the spring of 22 relate to negotiating or looking at the numbers and making sure that the MOU makes sense.
Yes, what Dr. Friedman and I discussed, which is pretty critical for us, is that we have the revenue that we generate for adult education fully funds adult education. None of the money that's allocated to us through Charlottesville City or Albemarle County Public Schools funds that program. So we want to make sure that we have time to develop an MOU that where if any of us at any point feel like this is not working, that we have options to decide this is not going to work and step away without dismantling, for lack of a better word, the program before we ever get our feet off the ground. So that was why we were kind of looking at shooting for spring 2020. I think obviously the sooner that we can figure this out and bring something free to our community, the better. So there's that sense of urgency there. And I guess it just depends on how long the negotiations take. But sooner than later, we're going to have to advertise for our fall adult education programs sooner. And when I say sooner than later, I mean like soon. We're going to have to do that because, we need that to happen so that we can have enrollment to sustain the programming until and if this were to go into effect.
Yeah, I think you all would have to establish, I call it a drop dead date by which the MOU would have to be implemented or signed if we were going to do this in fall. If we miss that date, it can't happen in fall. Establish a date by which we must have an MOU for it to happen in spring, and then we would try to meet that. I think that's imperative, as Director Carter said, because you have a schedule, you got scheduled classes, you got to make all the arrangements, hire faculty, market the classes. So we would have to have an agreement before you start that process, or else wait another, 6 months or whatever until January.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
Would CATEC envision offering any adult ed classes that were not part of the G3 suite?
I think that certainly, I know Pvcc is open to that. We would have to make sure that we had enough revenue in order to fund those programs. I don't think it would make sense for us to offer two adult ed classes through CATEC and everything else through Piedmont. But I think we're certainly open to all the discussions about what makes sense.
Yeah, there are things that you offer to the adult students that are not G3 eligible. So what happens to them? I guess that's part of the discussion in the MOU. I tell you the truth, I would prefer CATEC continue to offer them. There's no reason for Pvcc to. The only reason for Pvcc to get involved here is because of the G3 eligibility. For programs that aren't G3 eligible, why would we change? But we, if that became an issue, we'd be glad to look at offering those also, but my preference would be not to.
I think currently and we discovered that though only 3 classes, and one of them we think we could apply for eligibility. There are only 3 classes that we currently offer that would not be G3 eligible. Dental assistant, auto body is the one that we think we could associate a certification with, so that would become eligible. And then our cosmetology apprenticeships, which are only the related instruction. They're not really even taught necessarily at CATEC.
Anybody else?
I'm still struggling with the finances, Frank and Stephanie. If it is the case now that the majority of our adult ed students are getting paid for by their business sponsors, would we just be are we looking at expanding the pool of students who don't have that, or are we going to be just cost shifting, to what the employers are now paying to the G3 program? Or did I just completely misunderstand how this is financed? Maybe Ms. Tomlin or.
It sounds like exactly what's going on is that instead of the employers subsidizing their employees, training this taxpayers are through the G3 funding in these high.
Well, it may expand the numbers of slots or the people that would be funded. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm struggling with, Jennifer.
I understood it a little differently. So I guess it would be for some clarification would be nice, because I understood it that there are people who are paying out of pocket. It would cover more expenses.
Right.
And the apprenticeships, now this is where I might be confusing too. There are people that are just paying for certifications that are not part of the apprenticeship program that are paying out of pocket. And presumably that's an unknown factor, but there are also students that are not contemplating attending because it is not, they can't afford it. But clarity would be nice.
Well, there wouldn't be anything to preclude, though, the currently business-funded apprentices from applying. Is that the case?
There'd be limited slots for them, right? Like you might not be able to find a business that's willing to sponsor you. I don't know though.
I think the reduced cost, I mean, regardless, I think it needs to be worked out. I think apprenticeship is just sort of unique anyway, but I think that the reduced cost of at least the textbook and fees being covered, and there's some ambiguity around what fees are. So we pay for scrubs, we pay for all kinds of things. Maybe those things are included, I don't know. But I think that regardless, it would make apprenticeship more accessible to small businesses right now that can't access it, and it would make apprenticeship more accessible to it would just be an incentive for employers and local businesses to say, let's look at this and see if we can figure it out. I know that Dr. Freeman and I had multiple conversations, and up until I think yesterday, we weren't even sure that apprenticeship could be included. So I know this piece still takes some hashing out, which is one of the reasons that I said for this year, let's leave the apprenticeship model the way that it is while we figure out this piece. And then we should relook at the MOU for the following year, because it still feels like this needs to be figured out.
Yeah, let me just say, I have no idea what percentage of your students are self-pay, either in the adult programs or the apprenticeship. I have no idea. If they're all getting their tuition and fees and books paid for by businesses, then let's call this quits right now. There's no reason to do it. The only reason to do this is to make it affordable for students. If it's already affordable, then we're wasting our time. But you need to look at what percentage of your students in all your programs are self-pay and see if it's a significant number who we can help. There also is the idea of expansion. Are there people out there sitting at home saying, geez, if that was free, I would do it? And I don't know the answer to that, but I speculate there are some. And obviously, if this was marketed appropriately, hopefully we would draw those in. But I don't know what your current situation is on self-pay. So, that's a variable you all need to look at.
And we know at a minimum, there are some people that have financial struggles with it because we offer scholarships and we have a foundation that offers scholarships to those students.
I still also think that it makes sense to figure out how we could leverage this funding and this legislation to bring smaller businesses that have not been able to create a sustainable apprenticeship model because of the cost. I think it presents an opportunity around that. And I think it would really help us diversify the pool of people we had coming into apprenticeships. And I think that it could really just make the connections to business partners really strong. We have lots of small businesses, and Shannon knows that, works with them, that have just a few employees, and they're really, they really believe in the apprenticeship model and are putting a lot of their hard-won resources toward it. So I know that it could really be a great opportunity for local businesses to leverage the apprenticeship. I also really see us at CATEC being able to strengthen our youth registered apprenticeships if we're able to work with smaller businesses and get our students put into an apprenticeship with a year under their belt, and then they're looking at 3 years instead of 4, and some of the cost is covered by G3.
Just to be clear, if a student has not completed high school, they cannot be G3 eligible.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm sorry. So a youth registered apprentice would be covered by CATEC as a high school
Oh,
student.
okay.
And when they leave us, if they successfully complete CATEC with 1 year of a youth registered apprenticeship, then they go into an apprenticeship with 1 year under their belt. So the remaining 3 years they would funnel into this program and be able to, a smaller business may be able to afford to have this apprentice. So I think it presents some opportunities.
And I can speak for some clarification as well for the apprenticeship model that's really employer driven. So those are really the programs that a lot of our students are sponsored and the employers are paying tuition for. Most of the adult programs, auto tech, auto body, dental pharmacy, CNA, those students are primarily self-pay. We do have some sponsors that have employees already that they want to take the medication aid class or to get their nurse aid certification. So there are a couple students that employers pay for, but most of the adult students taking adult programs, they are self-pay programs.
Yeah, that's why I said, if it makes sense to only do it for the adult programs and not for apprenticeship, okay, that's fine. Or if it makes sense to do it for both, we're open to that too. It all depends on, all these variables you're talking about.
So for CATEC, does that mean that we would not continue to pursue the accreditation that we were looking at before?
That it means we would not. Shannon and I've had lots of conversations about it. And even if one of the reasons we really wanted to pursue accreditation was to offer the cosmetology program. And we wouldn't meet the minimum enrollment that we would need in order to qualify for accreditation. And Shannon, do you want to speak on that a little bit more?
So there was a very tricky formula to count. It's called full-time equivalencies. And if the only program that we are running right now is cosmetology, we do not meet that full-time equivalency number. And the future goal was to then offer welding under the accreditation model, to be able to offer a practical nursing program under the accreditation model. But those are two programs that if this agreement with Pvcc moves forward, those are programs that are G3 eligible. So we wouldn't need accreditation for those programs as well. So we just wouldn't meet the number for cosmetology in order to move forward, at least for the first year. Since it is a 2-year program, we'd have to really establish the program in order to get enough students enrolled to meet the required equivalent of full-time hours to be able to be granted accreditation.
I think that there definitely seems to be interest, and I think it would be appropriate to make a motion that we discuss this proposal in closed session. The actual motion I'll make at the end of our meeting when we're moving into it. But if I could just, I guess, get agreement on us moving to a closed session after the meeting to discuss this further. I should know this, but if I'm not making the closed meeting motion right now, this is just kind of an agreement. I mean, we can just, I guess, by nodding our head, say that that's all right. And we can take a vote on it when we get to the end of the meeting.
Well, not to prolong anything, but I wondered if the foundation board members had any thoughts on this.
I know that I had a chance to talk briefly to Linda, and she is giving a presentation. Ms. Seaman, do you want to weigh in now, or is it part of your presentation? I know we tried to give you a heads up so that you could incorporate it in there.
Well, thank you. It will mean a very significant change in how we can use the restricted funds that we have. The restricted funds that we have, which were a gift from a donor several years ago, require that money be used for individual students or for student support. it can't currently be used for institutional support. So the foundation board is awaiting decisions that all of you will be making. And if that, the other part of this that is going to be okay for us is that in the agreement we have on receiving those funds, there is a clause that allows for that agreement to be amended. And therefore we can go back to the executor of the donor and see if we can amend the agreement so that our funding can be used in other ways to support CATEC. So once your decision is made, we will have to move forward with figuring out how we can proceed. Okay, but at any rate, what we're going to do is support CATEC, whether it is through individual students or it is through some other mechanism. But we're going to have to change what we're doing too.
Fantastic. I'm glad you're putting thought into it. Student support seems like a big category. You might be able to get some other things in there.
Yeah.
There's not a change. So if we're in agreement that we can make a motion for a closed session at the end of this meeting, I say we go ahead and move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of new foundation members.
I'm just going to say goodbye. I don't need to be on for that. Thank you for the invitation to the meeting. I look forward to whatever decision you make. And if you decide to move this forward, we're ready to, roll up our sleeves and get in there and try to work out an agreement that will work for everybody. I call it a win-win-win. That's what we want. A win for CATEC, a win for Pvcc, and most importantly, a win for those students who can't afford their instruction. And there's this great opportunity to help our community. And I just hope we do it. So thank you very much. And I'll say good night.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Friedman. And it sounds like you're in close communication with Ms. Carter. So hopefully you'll get some feedback after this meeting.
She's been absolutely great to work with. We've been back and forth several times on all this, and it's been great.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night. So for approval of the new foundation members, did you want to give a presentation, Ms. Seaman or Ms. Carter?
I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Seaman. I think you all know our esteemed president of the CATEC Foundation Board. She's going to give you all an update. She's going to give you all an update about what's going on and also present a new foundation board member.
Okay, I think that on your agenda, the new board members comes first. The first one we would present is Debbie Garadia. Debbie is the owner of Accounting Solutions. She is a CPA. She is an immigrant to this country from India and therefore has a very significant interest in the other international students who frequently are the students at CATEC. And she sees that as an opportunity for her to serve in that way. She has both a long and deep connection to the Charlottesville Chamber of Commerce. She is very connected into the chamber. So we think that she will help us as we move into the larger business community. The second name we put forward is that of Emily Policia. Emily Policia is a Charlottesville High School graduate, and she was at one point the chair of the city's School Health Advisory Board. Emily is Deputy Chief of Operations for the Charlottesville Fire Department and has also served as the Administrative Chief for the Fire Department in Charlottesville. Interestingly, she has taught some of the fire EMS classes at CATEC or supported that teaching there. And she herself has taken a CATEC woodworking course. She's very excited about coming onto our board. And the third name we would put forward is that of Brent Hall. Brent is the owner of Hall's Auto Body, and he has worked and helped with support for CATEC, particularly in the auto body program, for about 20 years. In addition to owning the Hall's Auto Body, he owns some construction related companies. He owns 3 or 4 different companies. So we think he can be tremendous help for us in a number of ways. So those are the names we are putting up at this time.
Do we have a motion to approve those new board members?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the new board members as presented by Ms. Seaman.
A second.
Do we have any discussion or comments on those? I know Emily, she's fantastic. Seems like y'all did a good job. Hearing nothing else, can we take a vote? Ms. Chisholm?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Great. Next on our agenda will be the presentation about the foundation, CATEC Foundation Board.
Thank you, Katrina. I want to let you know how much we appreciate the opportunity to update you. The CATEC Foundation began reorganizing in many ways in October, and we started with a full review of our bylaws. And that was a way to familiarize our members with our mission and what we needed to do to fulfill that mission. Throughout this year, Stephanie has provided us with information, educating board members about CATEC programs, facilities, and needs. I was especially grateful to be included on the trip to Massanutten, as you've heard about. For me, it was an eye-opening day of inspiration and challenge, seeing all that CATEC could become with adequate support from the school districts, the foundation, and the private sector. Stephanie has also provided support and continuity to the foundation by helping us with staff to support us with bookkeeping and record keeping. Among the things, I will just run down a list of some of the things we have accomplished in the last few months. As was a concern of yours and certainly of ours, we now have directors and officers insurance. And we have also received certification from the Department of Agriculture, which registers us so that we're now allowed to be a fundraising organization. Financially, we've done a lot of things to get our house in, well, get us all organized, really. Our 990 was prepared and submitted to, by Robinson, Farmer, and Cox. We have now set up spending guidelines from our general endowment. We have developed a process for paying bills in a very clear and orderly way. And on July 1, we will transition to using QuickBooks and having the CATEC's financial department help us with bookkeeping for all of that. On the scholarship front, you received a chart accounting for the scholarships that we have given out already. Additionally, this year we have developed a procedure manual describing all of CATEC Foundation scholarship offerings, applications, evaluation forms, and evaluator checklists. As you can see, we have given out adult fall scholarships for both fall and spring terms, and now we will be giving scholarships to CATEC seniors who are graduating. And those, we have incorporated several other scholarship offerings that came through CATEC into the foundation to streamline that operation. And we also put together an emergency fund to support students this year who are facing pandemic-related food stress, so that our students are well fed and we can help with that. Now, on the marketing and fundraising side of the world, we have developed a web page, which is part of CATEC's website. I encourage you to go there, and when you go, you'll see our new logo that we adopted recently. We have developed a board member giving program so that we have some unrestricted funds. And for signing day this year at CATEC, we're supporting those students through two business connections. One is all of those students who are signing contracts will receive help to get Red Wing shoes that are appropriate to their careers. Shoes are very often a very expensive item, particularly in construction. And they'll also, we're getting Diamondback tool belts. so that is to help in their career as they begin their careers. And lastly, I just want to say that in the months of the pandemic, we have all frequently praised the work of essential workers. CATEC is where essential workers in our community get their education and training. It's critically important that we all support CATEC and the important work it does to prepare the essential workers of our community and everything we require for daily functioning. Too often, CTE is the quiet corner of our educational systems, and certainly anybody who's gone out and found that their car doesn't start should be thinking about CATEC, because that's the person who's going to come and help you. Or somebody who finds out that their AC isn't working on a hot August afternoon, you can thank CATEC again, because that person's going to help you out. So perhaps we need to think more frequently of all of the service that comes into this community because of the training that people get at CATEC. And I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
It sounds like you've been quite busy getting reorganized or organized better at the foundation. That's all very good news.
Yeah.
It'll help you do the work more easily. Both Madison and you have mentioned the visit to Massanutten CTE and as if it's an aspirational. And I have to confess, I have not looked at other CTE programs, and briefly, I mean, a couple of highlights I would love to know.
Well, Stephanie was there and Anthony was along, and I think it was seeing how well developed the programs are there, and they're well developed because they have business partners in the community, and how important those business partnerships are, both in terms of getting people from the community to come in and help teach, and for putting students into internship situations or for them getting jobs. Often they're major donors. I think we went over largely to look at the fire program they have over there, and they're an actual fire station. They can run calls. It's that well developed. We have a classroom with a closet full of equipment, and that's it. So there's a long way we have to go. I think one other thing that impressed me was they have a regular restaurant there with a fantastic outside brick oven that was put together by their masonry students. So although it was because of the pandemic, we could not eat there. It's a beautiful kitchen, very, very modern, updated, with a very, very good looking dining room. So that's just two of the programs. There were others. They were building tiny houses for people to use. They were selling those. Just lots of different things going on.
They also have enrollment of 900 students. So it's a complex issue, and one that I think needs to be addressed from multiple fronts. And, I think as a community, and CATEC's, one of CATEC's responsibilities has got to be getting the message out there and really continuing to try to shape our image, and updating spaces and investing in our spaces is huge. Because right now, if you go down to our auto body lab, it's the paint booth is a cinder block. It's 4 cinder block walls. It's not a real paint booth, and we have to make the space a great training facility for students, but it also has to be something that intrigues students and makes them want to come and learn. And I think we need to continue our mission to educate school counselors and help them see ways to make a path to CATEC possible, even if a student's on an advanced studies track. And I think helping them figure out how to get students here is a critical part of our work. And updating our spaces, and then the enrollment will happen, and then the funding will happen. But it's all sort of this, it's kind of a chasing your tail situation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I've been on the like Madison, I've been on the CATEC board for quite a few years, but I've not visited other programs, and that even this little snippet was helpful, because I think in terms of CATEC, it would be nice to have not only make sure everything is in place, but have some aspirational, maybe more aspirational goals.
Yeah.
I know you probably have them already, Stephanie, but I mean, redoing the kitchen. What if we broke out a wall and had an open, a little cafe at some point? I mean, that sounds.
Well, we have a food bus, and
right.
So I think we've got to really figure out how to utilize that. We've had 3 great events with the food bus, and the food bus stayed in our parking lot. And that actually, I don't know why we hadn't thought about that before, because we get a ton of traffic on Rio Road, and we're centrally located in several, we put it in Division Compass, and we even had an appearance by Dr. Haas. One day he came and had lunch, and we had a lot of county employees come and take advantage. So I think that one of the things, I also got some really great advice. I am new to really directing a facility, and so it's an area that I'm working hard to learn. And I think probably what needs to happen next year is that we do a facility study, and we can go and look at other places, but we need somebody that's smarter than me and has more expertise than I do to come and say, this is what you really need to consider doing. And then try to move that plan forward on a bigger scale. And in the meantime, investing as we can, the funding that we have locally into our current spaces, trying to build these business partnerships to be able to fund some of these bigger projects too.
Ms. Carter, to your point, and to Kate's as well, we had previously, I think when you first came on board, had discussions about doing something outside of the current culinary arts space with the gardens, and potentially a pizza or grill type thing that the students would build from building trades. And there's some things that we probably had done before that we may or may not have been able to do during the pandemic. But one of the things that I would like to say, because Matt has sat around the table as substitutes for his former superintendent, and we've always had discussions about how we as a community need to rethink education. Career and technical education is a formalized set of skills. It is a training. We need people that do HVAC and plumbing and electricians. I don't know how much you all have paid recently to have an electrician come, and I'm talking about an independent contractor, not an electrician through a corporation or a company. They too are expensive, but they're hard to find. And we have spent a lot of time in this community speaking and talking about higher education. But career and technical education is also a form of higher education. So we, as members of this community, whether you are in education or not, you have taken on the role of becoming an educator by being on the school board. So we must begin to look at education in more than one way. And education beyond high school is a form of post-secondary education, whether it's specialized training, whether it's a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution. And it is incumbent on us as ambassadors to CATEC to assist Stephanie in this effort. And she's a lot brighter than she thinks.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have any other comments? Timing wise, we're a little bit behind schedule. Only a few minutes. Hearing none, I'm going to move us to comments from the director. Stephanie, did you have anything else you needed to say?
I honestly feel like I've made so many comments tonight. I don't know what else I would have to add that's beneficial. So I will pass the torch to Shannon.
And I am just going to make it really quickly, just an update on adult and apprenticeship programs. We have had a really great year this year. Over the last 2 weeks, all of our apprenticeship classes have ended. Most of our adult classes have ended with the exception of auto body and auto tech. Some late February weather required us to cancel several classes that kind of pushed the deadline or the end date for those classes to be pushed back a little bit. We are running a summer session this year. We just started a new nurse aid class that is full. We have a registered medication aid class that is starting on June 1, and that is almost full. We have 2 more spots in that class to accept enrollment in. And we are excited to be running a second EMT class that will begin on June 21st. We were able to serve some high school students in our last class that we ran. And we actually have 4 high school students currently enrolled in the summer class for EMT as well. So that's all I have.
That's fantastic. Do you have any comments, Mr. Smith?
I do not, thank you.
That concludes comments from the director, other business by the board, our superintendents. Okay, speak now or wait till the next meeting. Or hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person at some time. Although not to discuss business, just to catch up on life. With that, I'm happy to make the motion to move into closed session, or if someone else wants to make it. Stephanie, if you have the language for that motion, I would appreciate it.
I'm going to share it now.
Hey, I have the motion. And Ms. Carlson, I'm not 100% sure that you should make the motion as chair.
Yep, that's what I thought. So Ms. McKeever, if you could please read the motion.
Okay, I move that the CATEC Center Board go into a closed meeting as authorized by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, section 2.23711A of the Code of Virginia. Under number 1, subsection 1, for the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. 2, subsection 3, for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for the public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in the open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. And 3, subsection 8, for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Can we get a vote, please, Ms. Chisholm?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
So the motion passes. I did just have a procedural question. Do we have a link for that closed meeting session?
It's currently in our emails.
Fantastic. See you guys all there, and then we'll be back to adjourn.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Madison.
I'm going to start the other meeting.
Ross, that you should leave this meeting and go to the, I sent you the link in a very recent email for the closed session. Are you going to be a part of that conversation?
Yes, I thought I hit the closed session link I got a couple of days ago, but I'll go.
I just sent it this evening because we had to resend it.
Okay, very
So
good. I'll leave.
check your email and I will resend it if you did not get it.
I'll do it. Thank
Hey,
you.
Leslie, can you send it to me again, please? I'm sorry.
Dr. House, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll see you. Bye, Anthony.
Bye, Matt. Take care.
You too, buddy. See you.
Leslie, Kate has come back.
Okay. So Kate, do I need to resend it to you?
You're muted, Kate.
Are we in the wrong meeting? I guess.
I had just sent the email while we were meeting in this meeting.
Okay.
Let me know if you can't get it.
So far, so good.
So was she able to go?
She was.
Good, thank you.
I'm going to go out back and look for some devil's dice. I'll be back in a few.
You better come back.
Are we all here or we take stock real quick? Yeah, we are.
We're here.
Do we have
Yeah,
I
let
guess-
me do the certification to come out of closed session, but I have to pull it up right now. Hold on. I move that the board certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
Ms. Chisholm, can you do a roll call?
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Let's move this meeting adjourned. Oh, no, I move that we take the recommendations of the director's personnel recommendation. I'm sorry, that we accept the recommendations of the director regarding personnel.
Second.
Dr. Acuff,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. McKeever,
Yes.
Ms. Osborne,
Yes.
Mrs. Puryear.
Yes.
Awesome.
Now I move, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think that concludes the meeting. I'm going to look forward when we can get back to having, maybe not, but the culinary food.
You guys, good job
Um,
tonight. Thank you so much.
You all
Yeah.
stay safe. Have a great rest of the week.
Good
Bye,
night as
everyone.
well.
This meeting's
Bye.
adjourned.
Thank you.